So, soccer chat derby, Berry College ladies with a victory over Covenant, and the men with a draw. So that puts the Alex side of the soccer chat derby at 4 points out of possible 6.
Wow.
That was a lot of
It's
fun.
college soccer. Did they have playoffs in the college soccer, right?
Yeah.
So can we revisit this when we're making the playoffs and you're not?
Soccer chat with 2 T's because we're going to chat about soccer, but we're also in Chattanooga. So it's like a play on words. And, Chattanooga is a soccer city.
Welcome to Soccer Chat.
Hello.
Hello.
So we had a pretty fun weekend as Red Wolves fans going to Saturday's game against Omaha. We don't have a lot of hullabaloo. We're just going to dive right in. We've got a 7-goal game. Red Wolves, always with the excitement. It's too bad the league is allergic to covering our team because they might actually get something exciting to share if they covered our games, where we have games with bunches of goals, lots of exciting plays. We always seem to have someone nominated for goal of the week and save of the week, and plenty of followers that'll actually vote for those people to win those awards. But, we score 5 goals on the road against a potential playoff team, and we get one player on team of the week. Please.
Yeah.
Spare me.
Well, it's a stretch to call them a playoff team, but it is, as we mentioned last week, they are trending towards their best finish ever, missing the playoffs. So good for them.
Well, who calls them a potential playoff team?
League One.
League One.
Because they're their money train on, because they must get a portion of their sales somehow or something.
But they look fabulous, really. They look fabulous.
I'll tell you who looked fabulous this last weekend, and I didn't get to see it live because it was delayed so massively. Tucson, in their first 8 seconds, scoring against Nuhu and that powerful defense for Omaha, who gave up 3 goals, yet Nuhu still managed to get nominated for Save of the Week because he made an excellent save that kept it from being 4-0. They just got boat raced by the, at the time, bottom of the table, which always feels good because that happened to us by them too. They didn't boat race us, but we gave up points to Tucson. So to see another potential top 4 team get beat by them always feels good. And reiterates the fact
to think that Tucson's wins against top of the table are what's keeping them from being eliminated from the playoffs at the moment.
Well, and it's also a reminder as to all these people who are trying to look at remaining schedule for these teams. There's 5 games remaining for most of the teams, 4 or 5 games remaining, right? I think it's 5. Yeah. And all these people are trying to figure out who has the hardest schedule. Well, everyone does, because even Omaha, who I think up until recently had looked at one of the strongest teams, and they definitely have one of the strongest defenses, can get boat raced by the team at the bottom. You can't look at remaining schedule and be like, oh, well, other than playing Chattanooga, Richmond doesn't really have anyone left on their schedule. Yeah, except everyone on the schedules can beat them. There's no team. Yeah. And it's not just a talk about the quality at the bottom. It's also a talk about the lack of quality at the top. I don't look at Richmond, Greenville, Omaha, us, and say those teams are far superior to the people in the bottom. It's really close in quality in any given night. Unlike when an SEC team goes in and is playing versus Vanderbilt, 95 to 99% of the time, as long as it's not UT, they're going to beat Vanderbilt. It's not that way in League One. You don't have a Vanderbilt to beat up on in League One. Tucson proved that this last weekend. Just like that, we lost all of our Vanderbilt fans. So, yay, another win for me. All right, so we're going to do this. We're going to go back to our no diggity scale, and I'm going to show all the goals from our game, starting with the first goal. And once again, to remind you, Alex, can you remind Jeff of the diggity scale before we start?
Because I'm old, I don't know these things.
Yeah, it's a no diggity. It is a man, now I've lost the diggity scale. There's no diggity. There's a proper amount of diggity. There's a dang. Adam's gonna have to edit all of this out. Hang on.
Oh, you know me so little to think that I am going to do that for you. But what I will do for you, Alex, because I feel like it's only I don't know. I think it's only fair to actually do it this way, where we can I'll just share the screen that has the diggity scale on it here for you. This is from.
I was just looking that up. So yes, of course, it's something's up to block that. Thank you for sharing your screen. There you go.
No diggity, hardly any diggity. Fair amount, and then the overwhelming surplus. Okay.
So keep in mind, as you're thinking of it, is it a no diggity, which means
not
yeah, hardly any, which is next up, a fair amount, and then an overwhelming surplus of diggity. So those are your choices, and we're going to jump right in. This was the first goal of the game. For those of you that are listening, hopefully the commentary is strong enough to explain what's happening. The rest, or you just catch us over on YouTube. So without further ado, here you go.
From the angle, showing left foot and right foot. Towards the box, finds the back of the net. Cardona in the 13th minute, 1-0 Red Wolves.
All right, gentlemen. We'll start with Jeff. Where are we on the diggity scale?
All right, another old man question. So is a diggity a good thing? So you want diggity.
In our scale, you're aiming for the overwhelming surplus of diggity.
Okay, so that's what you're aiming for. Okay, so I'm going to go for fair amount of diggity, partly because I know some of the other goals that are coming. I was excited when I saw it. I think it was really good. Certainly, at least a fair amount of diggity. It's almost up to D, but I feel comfortable with a C, with a fair amount of diggity.
I'm really excited for Nico Cardona to get his first of the season. I'm also going to give this a fair amount of diggity, partly because what a terrible job marking by Madison. He is all by himself. He does what he needs to do, rising up, directing that ball on target. But they're really, he shouldn't be that open off of that set piece, in my opinion. So fair amount of diggity.
Okay.
All right, I think that's a fair. I'm going to stick with fair amount as well. I think you guys kind of pegged it, and part of it is we've seen all the goals ourselves already, so that does adjust. So here is the second goal.
It looks like Ortiz is going to throw it in swinger at us, high in the air. That will find the back of the net.
All right, we'll start with Alex. First off, before we go too far, can we just say the announcer on that gets no diggity? All right, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, it was very Joe Buck in the Super Bowl with the helmet catch, like afraid he's going to get electroshocked if he gives too much excitement. But that's pretty typical of a League One broadcast. So do we know, was this credited to Daniel Navarro? Or was
eventually it was. So it was credited to Navarro, then given as an own goal, and then back to Navarro. I believe ultimately it landed on back to Navarro.
Okay, right now I'm looking at the League One, and it is still showing as an own goal for.
Oh, so it's gone back to an own goal. Okay.
Yeah. So.
I don't think that's correct, by the way. I don't think that was an own goal.
So if Daniel Navarro is able to get his leg between the defender and put that on net off of his foot, that is an overwhelming surplus of diggity. If it's a badly played own goal by the Madison player, I think I'm going to have to give it hardly any diggity. But for Danny Navarro to track that ball get to the spot where he needs to be and be able to get his foot in somehow to get a touch on that, overwhelming surplus of diggity.
All right, where you at, Jeff?
Well, first of all, if it's an own goal, then Navarro is the one doing the owning.
Nice.
Well done.
Yeah, I'm have to agree because it wasn't an own goal. This was intentional. It wasn't just some kind of fluke. It bounced back around. That's what he was doing. And so I'm going to go for overwhelming surplus of diggity. For Mr.
All right.
Navarro.
So that brings us to our third goal, and here that is for us.
Adam,
Okay.
what's your vote?
Playing from behind.
I'm sorry. I am focused strictly on the announcer in that last one, so I'm going no diggity.
On the other side of things, Ray Ortiz breaking down defenders. That will find the back of the net. 30th minute, 3-0.
All right, I want to start on this one because, first off, beautiful pass by the forward defender directly to Ray Ortiz.
Right in stride.
It was
They
really
wear so many different jerseys, he forgot which team was his.
highly possible. I went back and tried to look at it. I couldn't figure out who he was trying to pass to other than Ray. And so I've got to believe he was passing to Ray, and he saw him open. He's like, this is the perfect pass. I'm going to get an assist on this goal, which resulted in my mind, that had a fair amount of dignity to it, because not only did he in stride pick up the pass, he took it to the corner, to the right side, made a little move. I believe he nutmegged the defender and then hit it off the post. That's a fair amount of dignity.
You're very hard to please.
Yeah.
A nutmeg off the post. That's an overwhelming surplus of dignity by Ray Ortiz. Should be goal of the week. It's nominated. By the time you're listening, voting probably will have closed. But should be goal of the week because of going through. And I made a joke during the game that it must be pumpkin spice season because the Red Wolves had nutmegs going all over that field on Saturday night.
Well done.
Chattanooga Meg Wolves. So
By the way, we're a apple cider podcast, just so people know.
and one of us is a sour cider. Won't say who, but so no, I agree with everything that Alex just said with the nutmeg, but also going back to the control that Ray had. It wasn't too long ago. Along the way, we would have lost control. And he maintained control of the whole thing. He owned the goalkeeper. The nutmeg, I think, just pushed it over. Overwhelming surplus of dignity.
Okay, you guys give those away, just in my mind, just way too easily. So we're up 4-0.
We love our team, Adam. We love our team.
Probably don't like participation trophies either, do you?
Not a big fan.
Okay, Boomer.
So we're up. It's close. We're up 4-0. Getting near halftime, and we give up our first goal, and that's what this one looked like.
Have the clearance. University of UConn product putting it in, and that will find the back of the net. Credit.
All right, so on this, instead of judging how good their goal is, we're going to do the dignity scale more off of how was our defense that created the goal. So in this situation, no dignity is basically our defense was terrible, and that's why they got the goal, up to overwhelming surplus. Ain't nothing we could have done. It's just a beautiful goal, and we did everything we could. And I will start if you guys are both dumbstruck by that concept, and I'm going to go with hardly any. I felt like there was opportunity there. It was not the fastest cross in for us to have a keeper reach up and punch that out, and I just don't know why he wasn't there to do that.
Yeah, I would say hardly any. Going up and winning a header, directing it on goal takes some skill, so I do want to give some credit for that. But here again, I feel like there wasn't a whole lot of marking going on that particular play. Can I call a quick timeout? I'm confused. We had Nico's corner. We had Navarro. we had Ray, and
Did
somehow
I
we're
miss-
up 4-1.
Did I miss a goal? I missed a goal. I'm terrible at my job sometimes. I feel like you guys should know this already.
Yeah, isn't it Alex's goal that we're missing? Conspiracy theory.
Alex?
Tahira's goal. should
Yeah.
be-
All right, fine. If that's what you want to see, I'll give the people what they want. Let's give them the fourth goal.
Madison's had a few really good chances at goal, and they have missed the target. Into the middle, and that will find the back of the net. Alex Tahira in the 36th minute. It is 4-0 Chattanooga.
All right, so we'll back up, and we'll do that fourth goal, and we'll start with Wolfman.
All right, I'm going to go overwhelming surplus. And the reason is, one, I love the buildup. I like the control. But what really pushes it over is the dance at the end. He just got that he just shaking those hips. That just gives me – that's an example of overwhelming surplus of something.
I am going to go with a fair amount. I agree. So this play is what we've been wanting to see. Someone picks up a ball in the defensive midfield, and it's boom, boom, passes, and we've got a player in on goal because we're trying to score instead of collecting the ball in the defensive half, passing it back to a center back, who passes to a wing back, who passes to the center forward or the center midfielder, who then passes to the center back, who then passes along to the other side, and we do the whole thing over again until we get lazy and they pounce on us and steal a ball in our defensive half. This was, we've got the ball, we're pressing, and we're going up 4-0 on you. That's the Red Wolves that I want to see for the next 7 games, right? 7-8 games. The 5 remaining, and then the 3 playoff games we'll have to play. Great pass, great poised finish by Alex Tahira coming in one-on-one. How many times do we see the keeper get a piece of it, the guy push it wide in this league? But he put that right in where it needed to be. So it was great to see a Red Wolves forward bury a breakaway.
Which is what happened. Yeah, which is what happened in the Tucson game that created the New Who being nominated for goal, Save of the Week, was exactly what you just described. One-on-one, and a keeper gets a piece of it and keeps it out. That doesn't happen here because Tahira takes the right shot. I'm actually convinced because of Alex. Up to now, I was actually going to go fair amount, but I think overwhelming surplus because of the fact that this is what we expect from this team. And to see them do it gives them that overwhelming surplus. So that's where I'll go with that one.
Also, credit Josue España on a great pass there to put play Alex into space.
All right, so going back to their goal that they scored on the header, Alex and I have already both given our opinion. What do you think, Jeff?
I'm going to go for hardly any diggity. I think it was stoppable. We've been having struggles this year on guarding against set pieces, and that's a prime example of you just. I don't want to take away from Madison; they earned that, but we made it easier than it should have.
All right, so that takes us into the second half. Kind of cruising a little bit, and we kind of seem like we're falling back into some of our old habits of sitting back and not really trying to finish them off and close out the game, which, in my opinion, is what results in this second goal for them, which, according to League One, meant that the comeback was on, even though they were still down 2. But here's what that goal looked like.
Joining us here in the 62nd minute, 4-1 is the way we went to the break. We'll get to the recap in a moment. Ball inside the box. Shot finds the back of the net. Mikey Maldonado has been knocking on the door.
Alex, you start.
Okay. I'm trying to remember in the game where Mikey Maldonado was constantly knocking on the door. To me, I'm going to give the defense no diggity on this. This is one of those situations where it's just a guy on a run. For Pete's sake, stick a leg in and foul him, throw your hip out. And he's squared up to Carlos Avalos on this one, and he hits it fast, and it just kind of goes right over Carlos's head. He isn't able to make a reaction to tip the ball over. I feel like he could have done better on that. nominated for Save of the Week on one in the first half where he made a great reaction save, tipped a ball over the bar that was on target. I feel like we were lucky, and I don't want to take anything away from these goals that we scored, but we were lucky that this game wasn't like a 5-4 or like a crazy 5-5, because there were a lot of opportunities that we gave up in this game, times where it felt like we were a little lazy on the ball and let Madison have too much of it after we had jumped ahead of them.
So you brought that up, and before we get Jeff, I'm going to bring a couple stats that I was going to talk about later, but it's perfect timing for it. We had 11 shots. They had 17. We had 4 shots on target. We scored 4 goals. They had 5 shots on target.
We scored 5 goals. How do we have 4 shots on target?
According to them, according
the
to
own goal doesn't count?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. According to them, it was an own goal. They had 58% of the possession, 476 passes to our 358. Those are all signs of us letting them have the ball. And I think when you think they had 7 corner kicks to our 2, I think you're exactly right. Like, this could have easily been a 5-4, 5-5, 6-5 game.
Do you have a passing percentage for us? Because it felt like there was just a little bit of sharpness missing. A lot of the passes didn't really go where we wanted.
Pass accuracy was all the way down to 78%, and that is definitely not normal for the Red Bulls. Just to give you like a little bit of context on that, when we played Omaha, it was very close to the same, but we had a whole lot more passes versus Omaha, like 480 versus the 370 here. So, yeah, it's just kind of one of those things where it wasn't a great game for us, I think is the nice way to say it, when it comes to crispness of passes. But when we did get them right, we took advantage of it on that end.
Well, the other thing we did well was defense. We had 14 tackles to their 10, and I think this is one of the most telling ones outside of obviously the scoring. Is 19 clearances to their 5, and I think that is really made a difference in getting us out there. Of course, I mean, if you think about it, we had 5 goals and 4 shots on target. That means the own goal not there. So every shot we had was on target was a goal. I mean, how often do you get that? That's really impressive. Speaking of really impressive, our defending wasn't for that goal. Coming back to what we were watching, so yeah, it's another one where it was frustrating because it felt like we were letting the foot off the gas, and I understood what the announcer was trying to say, because in recent history we just started to fall apart at those times. And so even though, we then we were up from 4-1 and now up to 4-2, it's still, we've been in that situation and that momentum was going against us. It was a poor performance on our defense. Thankfully, it didn't stay that way, because we've had some games where once they got in that rut, they couldn't get out. So thankfully they got out, but during that goal itself, that's a no diggity.
So as we get into the 80th minute, I kind of start thinking to myself, I should be comfortable, right? We're up 2, and it's the 80th minute, but we just came out of the Omaha game where we were up 1 in the 85th and we lost. So I was still feeling a little bit on edge, if I'm being honest. And so, and I'm not 100% sure I have the last goal, but when this happened, I'm hoping this is the last goal.
Here in the
No, it is not.
Minute.
No, it is.
4-1 is the way we went to the break.
So I've lost that goal, I hate to say. So Juan Galindrez did come in the last bit and get the 87th, 88th minute, got the sealing goal for us. I don't have it to video clip up, but do you guys remember the goal, and can you give it your best a shot at a scale?
Rafa Menzigen making a run that we love to see, where he gets the ball on the outside and starts to come across. He turns and puts the shot on that hits off the post. 2 of those in this game. And it comes right back to Juan Galindrez, who is in exactly where he needs to be, and he buries it on an open net. I'm going to say a fair amount of diggity. because he did, Brafa did most of the work. Galindrez gets the goal. But still, it was great, and it was good to see us slam that door at the very end, right in front of, couldn't happen to nicer people there in the flock, and it was good. Made for a happy evening.
I was having nightmares during the game when we had set pieces because you guys weren't around in the 70s, I don't think, or at least
I was one.
You were
Not
one.
even a glimmer in my father's eye.
So they were making noises you would hear at the forced to go to junior high dances at the disco thing. So there were disco mingo whoops. There was whoop, 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 whoop. And that just, to me, that was just, I just had some flashbacks of, junior high dances. It just was not going very well for me. I just want to let you know.
Sounds like a heck of a junior high dance if it's giving you flashbacks.
Yeah, it was. It was a lot of trauma. But eventually I tried to DJ, but I kept playing Aerosmith, and they asked me to not do that. So I'm going to go with fair amount of diggity. And if it had been another goal scorer, it might be a little higher, but it was really good. But we have high expectations for him, and I think it was a great goal. It was a great setup. I think Rafa, his assist is as important, if not more, for the actual goal itself. But it's good to see Tanky score again.
All right, and I'm also going to give it a fair amount of diggity. Having just closing it out is what does it for me, and the way that it came to it was a sub that I at the time was very confused by. I didn't understand why we're bringing in a guy who doesn't do a very good job of tracking back on defense when we're up 2 when he did come in, and so to see him prove me wrong, which is not that hard. That was good to see. So. All right, gentlemen. So that takes us through all the goals in that game. I think we've covered it. Is there anything specific left about the game that you want to mention or talk about before we move on to the preview of our game on Saturday?
It felt good. It just felt good.
We have really one dragon left to slay, which is a win in Greenville. This is a place where we have never won in our entire history. We had such a long struggle against Greenville earlier this year when we put a bunch of goals up and beat them 5-2, or was it 5-1?
5-1. Yeah.
5-1 against Greenville when we had such a long streak of losses against them and an unbeaten run as well. So we've got those two. Maybe hopefully as we get to playoff time, we'll have a chance to slay a dragon in Greenville and go there where we've never won and come away with a victory.
I'm hoping that we are able to overtake Greenville and they would have to come to us this year.
Fair enough.
But if we have to go to Greenville, that would be a great time to slay that dragon. Agreed. And I would definitely do everything I can to be in Greenville when that happens. So let's turn our attention to Richmond, who will be coming to CHI, one of the final 2 home games for the Red Wolves. Richmond is currently playing, as we are recording here on Wednesday night, in Union, Omaha. As of right now, it's a 0-0.
You mean in Papillon?
Right. I just don't like trying to pronounce it. So, yeah, in Papillon, as we're recording, it's the 33rd minute. It's 0-0. If that somehow holds and it stays and it's a tie, it makes for an interesting game on Saturday for a points perspective because it would take us to 39 points if we can win, which puts us in realistic shot of getting to Richmond. However, League One uses the dumbest, most ridiculous tiebreaker there is, and they already have 12 wins in the season. So we needed them to either just keep losing and us to catch up by having 2 wins in a row to catch them, and them lose 2 games in a row. And then in theory, it could be darn close on goal differential because if they lose 2 and we win 2, you're guaranteed a 4 points or 4 goal swing in that situation at least. And we're currently 4 goals behind them in goal differential. So this game in Omaha, I think can stay 0-0, 1-1, whatever it is, really sets up to have a great run down the track. But that's getting way ahead of myself. Let's talk about this game on Saturday. Jeff, what are you expecting us to be looking for as we go into that?
All right. Well, I mean, if they end up with a win, I think either case, I think Richmond's going to be pretty confident. They beat us earlier this year. We have been a struggle for them historically, not quite as much as Greenville was for us, but they were struggling to get wins on us. Now every game they play well. We play very well against each other. We match up well to the point where it gets pretty physical. But I think there's a lot of mutual respect with both our sides.
Mm-hmm.
But Richmond this year, they've got that confidence boost, and I think they're coming in with a bit of confidence, and they've got the reasons for it.
I don't know how Darren Swosky feels about Jimmy Weekly, but I'm pretty sure there was zero mutual respect with the prior coach. As I've had the game on here, that's why I keep turning my head and staring off camera, trying to see what's going on. Most of this game has been played in Richmond's defensive end. But you're right, Jeff. We historically have had a good run against them up until the time that so we lost to them. We've lost the last 2 games to them in Richmond. We lost the one last year where they tried to accuse the announcer tried to accuse Jonathan Ricketts of all people of stomping on another team's player. And then we lost.
Savage.
We lost the game earlier in June to them when we were on one of our tough stretches, losing consecutive games. But early in the season, I think it was the second game of the season, they came to Chattanooga and we beat them in a 1-0. It was a game that gave the team, I think, should have given the team a lot of confidence. We scored our goal. We had a couple other chances, if not for a good save by Fitzy. We should have been able to really put that away. Good save, Fitzy. I've seen him make a couple good saves over here too. So excited for Fitzy to be back in town. I'm sure he's a regular listener to our podcast. Fitzy, welcome. We hope you have a good time while you're here, except for the 90 minutes that you're playing soccer against us. It's going to be close. Both teams have really talented players. You know, they of course have the Golden Boot leader, Emiliano Terzaghi. Has been a proven scorer in this league. He is a dangerous player, despite the fact that he has hair like me. And I feel like a lot of times we do a pretty good job of neutralizing him, but they have players around him that can also be dangerous. And so they're going to have to make sure that defensively they stay in communication and that we don't get lazy. Get the first goal, go for a second, because they have the ability to counterattack and punish you if you get lazy.
Yeah, they'll let that. Yeah, they have a really solid side. I don't know how Terzaghi is still in USL League One.
Because he's 35 years old or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, this is his retirement plan.
Well, a shout out to Bolanos as well, who is leading in the assists. He's another one you got to keep an eye out for.
Yes.
But and you add in Fitzy in there as well. So those 3 are the top 3. We've got to have to maintain as much as we can. So it's really kind of weird going into it. I was frustrated with what happened in Omaha, but feeling really good with what happened in Madison. So hopefully they're going to carry that confidence through, but we have to avoid what we've mentioned has happened to us this year is we get ahead, we get comfortable, and we relax. We cannot take the foot off the gas. We got to keep that constant pressure. Otherwise, Richmond will make us pay, and they would love to get a win in Chattanooga. They would love to shut us up. And I mean,
they have been playing well. Like, I'm going to ignore the game that's happening now because we don't know how that's going to end. But they have, they're on a bit of a run in that their last 2 games, they've scored 3 goals in both games, including a game over Union Omaha, a game over Tormenta. They did tie Central Valley. They did lose to Greenville. But if you look at it,
Central Valley was a comeback. They were down 2 goals and came back in the second half to tie that game.
Yeah, so I mean that's a big thing, right? And if you look at what they've done, they've equaled us in goals scored, but their highest scoring game is 4 goals, right? So this is a team that scores not in like we did where we have a 7 game, a 5, right? 3 is a big game for them, and they're doing it on a regular basis. Like to get, 3 in the last 2 games, 2 got shut out, but then 3, 1, 3, like that's a lot of scoring on a consistent basis. So Alex is 100% right. We will not survive scoring and put your tail between your legs and hope they don't score on us. You're talking about a field where there's a lot of space, right? It's 120 yards long. Like there's room for these players to get space. And you can't just sit back and expect that to work because there's too much opportunity for a team like them to find the space. So I think we have to put the pedal to the metal. We have to be going for 3 or 4 goals and really put it to them for 2 reasons, right? Number one, it gives us a chance to catch them on goal differential because, as I mentioned earlier, the first tiebreaker is going to be wins. And if we're going to catch them and somehow get in one of those first 2 spots, we got to win this game and we got to win another game that they lose to put us even. But once we're there, the next tiebreaker is goal differential. So it's really important that we create some separation there. And if we can win by 3, we flipped it, right? We went from being down 4 to being up 2 on goal differential. That's huge.
So the other thing that I would say is important to remember, we have our plays that we love where we isolate a player, he makes 2 or 3 moves, he tries to put a cross in the box. And I don't see that working with Richmond. They are one of the other things we look at for them. They have tall defenders, tall center backs. If we give them a chance for those guys to come, get their back to goal and get set, they're going to clear away anything we cross in. It's going to have to be quick transition, get the ball to a corner and play an early ball, play something low, play something that maybe peels back towards the top of the 18 where someone like Carrera Garcia or Jimmy Villalobos can hit a shot through traffic that maybe Fitzy can't see. Those are the ways that they're really going to be able to pick apart Richmond. If we get to the point where Ray Ortiz is standing on the ball, doing a couple step overs and a little shimmy and trying to get to the byline and cross it, it's going to make for a long night for us.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So one thing I do want to mention, in the last podcast, I went a little off on Jimmy Weekley and about the fact that he was a academy coach and didn't really think for himself, right? And I don't think I explained that real well. So what I meant by that, and my wife asked me to clarify this because we listened to the podcast on our way back from the Nashville game with superfan Kay Baker and Brian. And
is this a new segment? Adam's wife listened to the show,
right? The first time in probably ever.
Where Adam has to explain himself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, she's right. I didn't explain this part. Like what I was trying to get at with that is academies tend to have a set plan as the overall academy of how they want to build the players, right? And you can argue left and right about whether or not they actually accomplish that. That's a whole different discussion. But overall, they do tend to have a overarching plan that is being played out by the individual coaches, right? And right. I think that's what I was trying to get at.
Especially with someone like Red Wolves, it's the idea of what the pro team's trying to do. You're trying to teach that to them so that when they get to the pro level, they already know what the team's trying to do.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what I was trying to get at was like he's used to being in a situation, whether it was when he was CFC or when he moved over to Red Bulls, where there's an overall plan that the academy as a whole has, and he's implementing that as opposed to coming up with the plan himself. I wasn't meaning to say he can't do it. I was meaning to say he doesn't have experience necessarily in that based off where he's coming from. Because if you look at the results as he's been in control, especially if you only look from up to the 75th minute, he's had great results, right? So
right.
I don't want to say that I don't think he can think on his own, and that's how it came across. What I meant more is like that's not been his history, is coming up with a plan himself. He's been the implementer of a plan, which is why I felt like he was still implementing Jimmy non-weekly, but Jimmy Obleda's plan, because I felt like that was what he was strong at, was getting somebody else's idea in. It doesn't mean he can't do it. I just haven't seen enough of a change to think he's done that. That's kind of what I was trying to get at. But.
Well, and I think as we were talking about, like if he's changed things as he came to take over, there's a particular way that the team was built, the way that players were signed. And Jimmy Weekley was really involved in that plan and putting the team together. He's very big into, I mean, he's probably, I don't know that it's his official title, but he's probably one of the lead scouts. He works very closely with Sean McDaniel as the GM, was always around at practices, doing all the different things with the team, with Jimmy Obleda. He's the one that brought in DJ Benton. He had a relationship there, saw that he was available, made that recommendation. And I'm sure he was involved in a lot of these other signings. He's someone that should get a lot of credit for the amount of talent and depth that this team has, because he was involved in the front office and all those behind the scenes things. And because he knows what they can do and was part of building that, he's probably thinking the same sort of plan as what Jimmy Obleda had for the players that we have on the team.
Yeah. Now, I have a question, though, related to that. Do you think if he manages to take us to the point where, say he gets us all the way up to like second in the league, say like the dominoes fall correctly on other games, because right now we're going to need help to get there, right? But say that happens. Say Greenville falters and either Richmond or Union falters, and we're able to get into second, get a bye, we win that game, we get into a championship. Now, I'm not saying we have to win the championship. We get into the championship somehow. Would he do enough to earn being reviewed to permanently take over the team?
I definitely think so. If he gets this team from where we were, pretty much 10th in points per game, right?
Yeah.
All the way up to second to a bye into a final. I think that's a pretty good resume that you can take into the office to sit down in your interview and say, I think I could take this team full time and get good results.
Yeah.
What do you so you agree, Jeff?
Yeah, I agree with that. The other factor is, and we've kind of alluded to it, is the fact of he's already been there, and he's not been as out front and center for us, but he has been there. He's been in the trenches. He knows the team. He knows what's going on. He's got the relationship with the club. If we go another direction, which we could, then it's a rebuild. And do we want? And it's okay. I can understand if we had done poorly, but this is a guy who's done very well with his team, and in some cases has gotten out of them what the previous coach couldn't, who is someone who is a great coach. And he already has the relationship. He's been part of the plan. So there could be continuity going into next year to build. So I would say that would be lucrative. So it's going to be telling, but I think things are looking good for him.
Now, the question is whether or not he'd even want to do that. He may not even have interest in it. But because he's kind of stepped back from other kind of head coaching type stuff, taking that role with Signal Mountain, kind of more of a overall like managing over the entire academy type thing that Signal Mountain has. So maybe it's not even of interest to him. But I'm just wondering, like, if it is of interest, I think he should have that opportunity. I think even if we get into third or fourth and get to host a home game in that first round, we win that game, we go on the road, say it's to hopefully not to Union Omaha, but say we go on the road to like Richmond and we're able to win that game. Like, I think if you take the team to the final and he's interested, you almost have to give him the opportunity. Like, that's kind of my line. Like, if he figures out a way to get this team into the final, he's got it. Now, if all he does is get us into fifth, and then we go on the road to Greenville and we lose, he doesn't have as much standing. Because I think almost anybody could have gotten this team with this much talent into fifth or sixth. But if he can get us to a final, I think he's earned that right. And also that has a little bit to do with how we play down the stretch. Like, if we end up in fourth and we won out, but so did Greenville and Union, except for when they played us, like, so Richmond would have to lose, but Richmond could still be ahead of us if they lose to us, right? But like, and we finished fourth, but we won out. That's different than we finished fourth, but we could have been in first if we had just won games, right? So it's all in how we finish. But I think he's got the opportunity. And if you would have asked me 10 games ago, do you think Jimmy Weekly would position himself for an opportunity to be realistic as a coaching hire other than just to save money because he's already with the team, so you're already paying him, so now you just have to pay him a little more? I would have been like, no, probably not, because I don't think he's interested enough in it, and I don't know that he has the commitment to it. After watching how this team has respected him, how this team has had created results for him, the camaraderie and the way this team is playing underneath him, the excitement they all have for each other, watching guys on social media who are legitimately getting beat out by players on the team to even be in the team, right? Like a Pedro Hernandez, who was super excited for Mo when Mo got his goal, not this game, but the game before, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Mo plays his position, and he was like, when the goal happened, is posting to his social media how excited he is. Like, it's not like because that's in the moment, right? He's not like, what I mean by that is he's not going back and trying to make it look good, like, way to go, Mo, 4 hours later because his agent or someone told him he should do that. He's doing it in the moment, which says even the players that aren't getting to play are excited for the other players in this team that are beating them out for positions. It's not easy to keep those type of players happy because they want to play, like everyone at this level does. And the fact that he has done that during what has got to be considered a crisis situation when your coach is getting suspended indefinitely, it seems like, that's impressive and should also earn him some points.
All right. Well said.
All right, well, it's going to be a little bit weird for those that watch us on or listen to us on a regular basis because we do not have any sort of roundup or Biggleswade report. Anything else you gentlemen have for us before we sign off tonight?
Biggleswade games are back. They played on Tuesdays. I don't have all of the details of that. Of course, they were off the last weekend out of respect for the Queen's passing. Local soccer, a lot of it was unfortunately rained out over the weekend as well, so we don't have that kind of update. But we will have it for you next week.
All right. And on that note, then,
Bye.
Diego Costa. Diego Costa is coming, and he's got a pack of wolves. We'll have something to talk about.
Wait, the Red Bulls got